Hey, what is going on, guys? It is Online here. Welcome back to another video. And real quick, before the video begins, I want to let you know what's going on with gaming at its core. So as you guys know, we haven't had a podcast going on for a while now, and that's because we actually are not uploading the podcast on our individual channels anymore. We created a whole new channel for gaming at its core, and you can find it in the first link in the description below. So yeah, I hope you can continue to watch our podcast there. We just came out with episode 8. We did episode 7 2 weeks ago. So yeah, the podcast is still going strong. We have some new members in there because Blue and Dan both left. So if you want to support the podcast, we just added Ryan and Josh in there, and it's pretty exciting. So yeah, link in the description below to the new Gaming at its Core channel. But other than that, Uncharted Lost Legacy comes out in 45 days, and that's very exciting. You know, Uncharted Lost Legacy is a game that's probably been one of the most anticipated games for me this year. You know, Chloe has not been in the Uncharted franchise for a long time now, since Uncharted 3, so it's going to be a very welcome return. And just seeing what everything they're doing with Lost Legacy, I kind of wanted to talk about what I want to see and kind of like my wish list for Lost Legacy. You know, because we already have the information out there, so I kind of want to go into my personal thoughts on what they could do better, learning from Uncharted 4, and overall make a better game. Now, of course, any of this stuff I'm going to be able to talk about, not really going to be able to be fixed by now, so I'm just hoping they did this stuff. But yeah, I'll just go into my list right now. So, you know, one of the first things that stood out to me in Uncharted 4 and going into the Lost Legacy is definitely they did not want to spoil set pieces, and so far they're doing pretty good on that so far, I'd have to say. Now, you know, when they had the whole gameplay demo, I believe a couple weeks back, you know, where they live streamed it, I believe Josh Sure said on Twitter that the whole gameplay demo would have mild spoilers at the most, and that they're really trying to keep the big set pieces and the big storyline moments for fans to, you know, be surprised by at the initial launch of the game. And, you know, it seems like they're finally hearing us, which is a big complaint. You know, a lot of people even tune out on games. They kind of go like media blackout in a way, social media blackout on some of these games, because, you know, they kind of show too much off. Naughty Dog's always kind of like one of the big contenders. They kind of show all their guns before, you know, the whole thing comes out. You know, if you look at Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4, you know, Uncharted 4, obviously, you got all the set pieces pretty much, you know, spoiled ahead of time. Really much Uncharted 3, because Uncharted 3 spoiled the ship part at E3. Then they came out later that year with the whole desert, you know, plane wreck. And as well as they already showed the burning chateau. I think that was like one of the first gameplay demos they ever shown. So, you know, those were like the big three, and they kind of revealed it already early. So, you know, it's a good thing. I mean, we saw snippets of the set pieces in the teaser trailer, but we don't know how they're all going to come down or how they're going to conclude. So, you know, yeah, it's going to be very exciting to finally be able to play set pieces in a long time that actually weren't spoiled ahead of time. So that's already a big thing going for it. Now, the second biggest thing for me with Uncharted 4 especially is kind of like the pacing. You know, Uncharted 4 had pretty decent pacing in the end, but, you know, the very beginning was kind of a little bit sluggish in a way. You know, I'd say Scotland/Madagascar, the pacing was kind of a little bit rough. And, you know, I think they even came out and, you know, they talked about it, and they said with Lost Legacy, they're really pushing for a better pacing. And yeah, so I think they're really going to be like listening to that feedback as well, which is a good thing, because, you know, if anything, I like the more in the game is a great pacing, because honestly, that can lead to me like not playing the game much or anything like that. You know, to me, Naughty Dog games always had generally good pacing for the most part. Only with like a few chapters I could think of, like Syria was a drag in Uncharted 3. Maybe Chateau went on for just a little bit too long. It's just going to be a very good thing if they can work on the pacing, and they know that, you know, Uncharted 4 was very slow in the beginning, obviously, with like the whole attic thing. And while fans like the old series, like myself, really enjoyed that, you know, they're really going to be pushing for a much better pacing at the story. So that's going to be a very good thing. I think that's only going to be a positive thing, not a negative thing, so that's going to be very good. Now, going to my third thing, it's kind of like the locations. Now, the locations were always a bright spot for Uncharted. It's always like one of the main characters of Uncharted in a way. You know, you always have Nate, Sully, Elena, and really like kind of like that fourth character really is kind of like the setting, because that's really what shapes the game. You know, Uncharted 2, what comes to your mind? Snowy and Shambhala, the Lost City and the snowy mountains. When you think of Uncharted 4, you think of Libertalia, you know, very, you know, iconic locations at this point. Now, Uncharted 4, you know, was a little bit rough, you know, with the locations, because it wasn't really that diverse, and it wasn't really that spectacular that we have seen in previous games. But, you know, going into Uncharted Lost Legacy, they really are taking inspiration from Uncharted 1 and 2, you know, much more things like tomb raiding, and just more of how the old Uncharted felt, like Uncharted 1 and 2 especially. So they're really taking inspiration from the old Uncharted games, which is always a good thing. You know, I myself always like the Uncharted 1 vibe of exploring the deep tombs, kind of having that vibe they game off of, you know, with the whole Nazi bunker things, and just overall the tombs that they had in that game were great. You know, it's really kind of like a special game from the Uncharted franchise. You know, the Uncharted games after that really didn't come back to that formula of those, you know, finding all this history in these dark tombs that really gave kind of like a dark, gritty vibe. So, you know, if they go back to that, or at least do something like Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2, that's always a good thing, because I always felt that after Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2, the locations kind of set off with Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4, and they weren't as iconic, or they weren't as good or fleshed out, or just memorable in my opinion. So that's always a good thing from Uncharted Lost Legacy, and it already seems to be a positive thing. Now going into my fourth one, I believe now, it's kind of like the characters. Now, the characters have always been a strong point in Naughty Dog games, are always the strongest point, but the biggest thing is Nadine, in my opinion. Now, Nadine is always a character that wasn't really that strong with Uncharted 4. You know, she was always kind of like the second person to Rafe, which is, you know, obviously true, because we barely got anything from Nadine, honestly. She was just kind of like the face of the whole army that you're fighting alongside Rafe, the rich boys. So, going to Lost Legacy, I really feel like they can really change our opinions on Nadine. They can always make her a fleshed out character. They can make us care about her, and that's always a good thing, you know. I feel like Uncharted Lost Legacy can possibly do something that's hasn't really done in a while, and that's actually remove a flaw from Uncharted 4 if they can actually flesh out Nadine's character, or, you know, do something. And that's going to be very good, because a lot of people are complaining about Nadine barely being anything but just, you know, a powerhouse to destroy Nate and Sam. And, you know, while I agree for the most part, I definitely think that Lost Legacy opens up the door to possibly flesh her out, possibly do something new, and just, you know, overall make this expansion worth it, and make it something, you know, changing Uncharted 4 in a way that just doesn't do its own standalone thing, but actually improves one of the weakest characters in that game, which would be a very strong point for the game. Now, going into one of my last ones, I kind of want little, you know, hits, or just little drawbacks to, like, certain characters, or just certain, you know, kind of like certain cameos, maybe. You know, I don't think we need to see Nate. I think it's already been confirmed we're not going to see Nate. I'm kind of done with Nate. You know, his story wrapped up, but definitely seeing something like Cutter mentioned, or, you know, he's going to be mentioned, you know, of course, but maybe even seeing him, or just seeing, you know, maybe even Sully or Sam. I think they already confirmed we're going to get mentions of Nate through Nadine's eyes and Chloe's eyes, and see how, you know, their views on Nate kind of contradict each other and just contrast. So, you know, maybe even seeing some cameos like, I guess, Cutter, or maybe even Solar and Sam. You know, there's always a possibility that they're going to get their own spin-offs, but if that never does happen, it would be nice to see, you know, some cameos. You know, I know this is going to be kind of like a standalone thing, so if it's not needed, definitely do it. Don't ruin the story in that aspect, but definitely if there's some room there, it would be pretty cool to play off some characters that were not really shown for a while, like Cutter, and yeah, that'd be really, really cool. So other than that, in terms of Uncharted Lost Legacy, the game is looking really good. You know, they're already adding new mechanics like a pistol, like a silenced pistol, which is something that we haven't seen in Uncharted games where you actually go stealthy, besides Uncharted 3, I believe, in certain chapters. But other than that, you know, there's lock picking, which is new in the game. That's going to grant rewards. I think they're going to have their biggest open environment since Madagascar, which is going to be crazy. It's going to be the biggest environment in Uncharted history. The set pieces are going to be the best yet, apparently. So yeah, I'm all stoked for Lost Legacy. I believe we're just under, what, how many days now? 40 days at this point. Very exciting indeed. I'm definitely going to be covering the game a lot more as we're going to be going down, because that was something I didn't do with Uncharted 4 and something I regretted. So hopefully, you know, I can have a lot more coverage going to the event, possibly get a review copy in the future. That would be actually pretty cool. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about Uncharted Lost Legacy. What are your kind of your like wish lists, or things that you hope they get right that, you know, you might have not thought they got right with Uncharted 4. So that has kind of been my list that I thought of. So yeah, let me know what you guys' list consists of in the comments down below. Until next time, I've been Online. Thank you guys so much for the support lately, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.